Welcome. It's Fallon from The Void. Look, I haven't been on a trip since 2018. The last time I traveled, it was to Sweden, and I ended up crying by the water at 2 a.m. in 40-degree weather. It wasn't a good time. I was determined to have a better time on my next trip, which would only come 6 years later. I wanted to see familiar spots, but also add a new country to my list. Fast forward to now, and I said, you know what? It's time. Let's go on a little trip. Et voila, the planning for this trip began, where I decided to hop on over to Denmark and Finland. I left Canada flying on Iceland Air, which I was amazed at how small the plane was. It was pretty crammed, completely full, in fact, and everyone had a bag, and they all took their sweet damn time to get to their seat. I was tired and annoyed as I had worked all day, and getting to the airport for some reason was just not easy, and I was flustered and sweaty by the time I got there and on the plane. Once I got on, I was seated near chatty Cathy's and screaming children. Awesome. The flight felt so long, and honestly, I didn't plan very well to keep myself occupied, and it was not comfortable, but international travel just seems to be that way these days. Also, Iceland and Iceland Air really know how to advertise. Everything on the flight is an ad, and they make you watch like 5 or so minutes of ads before you can access the entertainment system. Smart or diabolical? Haven't decided. I gave up trying to watch anything and just listened to hours of drum and bass mixes and watched the map as our little plane slowly made it across the Atlantic Ocean to our tiny Viking island. We get to Iceland early in the morning, and the air is clean and crisp. Unbothered, unlike me, who was overtired and still sweaty. They bus you from the plane to the terminal, so you get to meander around dozens of planes parked on the tarmac. I made it to my connection to Copenhagen no problem, as immigration was quick at Reykjavik Airport. I didn't have to pick up a bag, more on that later, so it was very fast. I eavesdropped, and most folks I heard were going to Oktoberfest in Germany. Prost! Once I got to Copenhagen Airport, I went to see how to get to my Airbnb and realized in the short time I'd been away, they have got 2 more subway lines. Meanwhile, in Toronto, we're still waiting for our hours 10 years later. I arrived at the Airbnb, no problem. Very cute, colorful, kitsch. I really envy folks that have an apartment here. They're always so full of light, and I live in this dark golem cave, so I guess in a place that doesn't get much sun, you need a lot of windows to let all of that in. We don't really have that issue in Toronto. I loved all the details the owner had put into the place, and I immediately felt comfortable there. I've stayed in some Airbnbs where you don't even want to touch anything. It looks so sterile, but this place really did it well.
Okay, I didn't want to start this vlog like this, but here we are. I wanted to start the vlog like I normally do, at my apartment when I'm like getting everything ready and doing everything that I normally do. But I was having such a bad ADHD, cannot get my shit together, basically. Could not pack my bag to save my life. First of all, I made the most genius decision that traveling internationally, this was the first time I was going to travel with a carry-on. I'm like, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be one of those minimalist. Who's there? Hold on, I'm just to make sure that the door is locked. Of course, I have a carry-on that weighs like literally a fucking ton just by itself. So how the hell am I going to do that effectively? There were too many things that I needed to bring in order to maintain myself. And it just didn't work. I may have to wash my clothes in the sink. I didn't bring the proper attire. I will be in Copenhagen for about 4 or 5 days. And then I'm going to Helsinki, Finland, which is, I've never been to Helsinki. I'm actually very excited to go there. Now it is about 2 p.m. I got invited to a musical theater sing-along tonight. I don't think I'm going to do that. There's no singing. No singing. I didn't get any sleep because of the screaming kid. Although I did have the noise-canceling headphones, there's no singing. There's only going to be sleep, possibly. Although I'm not hungry, I should probably eat. I'm going to go maybe do some grocery shopping. I'm staying in my old neighborhood. I used to live in this neighborhood. I'm going to go walk around my neighborhood because I miss it so. It felt like coming home. I was like, oh, I'm home. Oh. I need to go get a comb because I didn't have room to bring a comb. So I'll check in a little bit later. Or maybe I'll take you with me to Flying Tiger, which is where it's kind of like, it's not really a dollar store, but it's like a cheap store where you buy cheap things.
I made it to Flying Tiger, see? Fun fact, it used to be called Tiger, and I don't know why they changed it. I went and bought a bunch of groceries at Netto, the best grocery store ever for hoarders, and bought a random assortment of food. And I bought toiletries at a store called Normal, which is like a dollar store, but better. So we got fresh spinach pasta on cheese on the menu, and of course, the best bread ever, sunflower dark bread. I didn't like that bread when I first moved to Denmark, but it was really grown on me now, so I actively buy it when I can. And look, I know it's not for everyone, but any Danes watching this, sound off in the comments how good Roll is. Also, I don't know what it is about their sliced cheese, but I can eat packages of the stuff. It's creamy, buttery, comforting. I said I wasn't hungry, but I am mowing down on that cheese. Then I settled down and watched some X-Files while I ate. I couldn't find the Wi-Fi password, but I didn't really care, so I just watched whatever was downloaded on my iTunes. I can watch X-Files episodes 10,000 times over and never get bored. It's like a skill I've honed. Very useless skill. The pasta wasn't all that good, but I also ruined whatever appetite I did have by eating 10 slices of cheese. Maybe more. Skål. After that, in the middle of the day, I was exhausted, so I thought, okay, I'll nap and maybe venture out later. That never happened. Sorry for the shaky video, but okay, now I'm going to go visit my friend. Meeting her kids for the first time. Well, her two youngest children anyways. I met her eldest before when he was a baby. I'm not going to show the kids, obviously, but I can't believe I still remember how to get there. It's been, I think, 7 years. Anyways, here we go. Okay, so day one debrief. Day one was great. And I met up with my friend and we went to the State Art Museum and wandered around there. They have a exhibit about forgotten female artists from like the 19th century. And then they had like 3 floors of art, both French and Italian and like European art. Then we also went to like the contemporary art, which I really enjoy, modern and contemporary art, because it's fun and it's weird. And then we went to this very expensive Michelin-starred restaurant, which I heard good things about. It was really tasty. It was, it wasn't like mind-boggling or anything like that. It was good. So it was like super fancy, what you would expect from like a fancy kind of Michelin-starred restaurant. So it was good. It was really nice experience. Probably I wouldn't go there like on a random Friday night or anything like that, but definitely for a special occasion. And then I need to buy a sweater because it is cold. I mean, I knew it was going to be cold, but it is colder than I thought it would be. I like the cold, but I need to be prepared for the cold. Anyways, so I will update you in the morning when I go trekking, perhaps, for buying a sweater, as well as maybe going to another contemporary art museum. I'm just going to watch some TV and go to sleep, even though I'm not really that tired. So check in the morning. Bye. After that full day of fun, I went to the Nikolai Kunsthal, which is housed in a former church. This room is dedicated to, I think, local artists drawing on a variety of themes that I don't remember. The main exhibit was called I'm Sorry, This Space is Reserved, which aimed to showcase art that tells stories of bodies with different functional capacities. It was provocative, subversive, and well curated, with pieces that really provoked one to think more closely about how different abled bodies interact with the world. It's on until the 19th of January 2025 and would recommend taking a stroll if you can go. Okay, so I'm headed to the Tolfoldsens Museum, and I just finished having lunch with a friend of mine, which I also didn't vlog because they had kids there, and I didn't feel like doing that while they had kids there. It was such a beautiful day and was actually beautiful more or less the entire time I was there, because obviously I brought the sunshine. The museum is dedicated to Bertel Thorvaldsen, who was a Danish-Icelandic sculptor from the 18th century. He lived most of his life in Rome and was obviously influenced by classical sculpture. Also, I am a sucker for a mustachioed man on horseback. Yeehaw. Okay, so I haven't really been vlogging at all for the past day-ish. Only I don't really know why. Like yesterday I had a day of just like going to like vintage shops and just like shopping, basically. Shopping, I didn't buy anything. I just was just looking around. Today I'm going to go do more touristy things and do go to the Museum of Danish Resistance, which is funny because I've been to the one in Norway, all of like the different artifacts and different like the story of
the resistance during the Nazi occupation in Norway, but I've never been to the one here in Denmark. I purposefully didn't plan anything for while I'm here in Denmark, just because, I just wanted it to be really like wake up super late. I've been waking up really late, for me, like 9 o'clock every day, and leaving the house, where I'm leaving now at like 11:15, which for me is like the day is gone, basically. That's good. I'm trying to get used to just going with the flow and not worrying too much about being like, oh my God, I don't have the days done and whatever. I'm trying very much not to care about that so much. So anyway, let's go.
When you get off the subway, you're greeted by this amazing 19th century church, which is called the Marmorkirken, or the Marble Church, but officially called Fredrikschurch. I'm not religious, but I love religious architecture of all faiths. There's something both mysterious and awe-inspiring about them, which I think is kind of the point. The Museum of Danish Resistance is a bit hidden, so much in fact that my Danish friend had never even heard of it. I think this is also deliberate, because much of the museum is actually below ground, as if you were to go underground with the folks who schemed secretly and fought hard against the Nazi pigs. You're taken on a journey with 4 real individuals who lived during the occupation and the choices they made during that time. It was an illuminating look at what people do when faced with extraordinary and dire circumstances, and how their ideological convictions led them to do things they never would have dreamed of doing in their lifetime. They also have a section dedicated to what I can only refer to as spy shit. No lie, I spent hours here playing around with this stuff. The museum is very well designed in that it is fully interactive and you can play around with the spy shit. It's nerd heaven. So here you are listening in on calls and picking up on hidden information. So for example, at 10 a.m., the potatoes and carrots are going to be delivered to Johan's house. Then you mark that this could possibly be some kind of clandestine operation and you're either right or wrong. I loved this game so much. Next, code breaking. This unfortunately took me a little bit to figure out. But, eventually I got it. After about an hour. One of the guys you follow was captured and sent to Neuengamme concentration camp. This was a really sobering part of the exhibit. Fortunately, he survived his experience. Dinner with my friend that night was great. Seeing her with her cute little family is nice. Meanwhile, I'm a goblin that lives in a dark cave and makes dark, depressing music. Onwards to my flight and arrival in Helsinki, and it was rainy and cold. And once you get to the airport, you're greeted with opera. Okay. I like it. Cool. I took the train to the city, and aside from the signs being in a completely foreign language, aside from the Swedish, it looked a lot like Ontario. Green, and lush, and rocky. The city had a distinct hybrid flair. West meets east, kind of like Berlin. And it's really cool. Has a great vibe that I dug instantly. It's a type of city like Copenhagen I can easily see myself living in despite the cold winters. But being where I am from, that's not anything new. As I said, I like the cold. I went to the Finnish Design Museum because if there is one thing I know about design is that the Finns are quite good at it. Marimekko, Alvar Aalto, Arabia, love it all. This part of the city almost gave me kind of a Montreal-y vibe even. Walking through the bakeries were teeming with folks chatting, people going to and from work, and these cute shops. Nary a chain store in sight. The next day, I went on an early bus ride to the teeny town of Porvoo. I heard a vlogger talk about this town and how cute it was with their cobbled streets lined with quaint shops and bakeries overflowing with cinnamon buns and coffee, because Finns really love their coffee. So as you enter the town, it's colorful, bathed in the early morning light, and also dead quiet, because nothing was open. I really should have looked that up. Almost made it seem like it was kind of abandoned, but behind every corner there were these little peaceful oases that you could delight in with no other tourists around. This garden was so gorgeous and peaceful, and there was a little museum that was tucked away in the corner. And these moments of tranquility were plenty. And the animals. Like, what kind of bird is this? It tweeted at me. And this cat is so Finnish, he ran away to avoid interacting with me. Him anyways, in case he decided to come my way, but no dice. Maybe he's racist, I don't know. On to one of the reasons I came to Porvoo. To try the Runebergstorte. It's named after Johan Ludwig Runeberg, Finland's most famous poet. He also wrote their national anthem. The women at the Runeberg Museum told me to come to Café Helmi. Moment of truth. It was delicious. I didn't eat all of it because migraines, but that bite was worth the €8 to get here. Then off to Brunberg Chocolatier, who generally makes some of the best chocolate I've ever eaten. This is a public square housing some government buildings and the Helsinki Cathedral. This is so European to have something like this neoclassical architecture that aims to inspire awe and also be a place for congregation. It's like I'm in Rome or something, but in a much colder and younger country. My friend and I went to the City Museum, and it was a bit strange. It had a special exhibit on the top floor that was interactive, so we milled about there for a bit. And you know what? I'm a sucker for these kinds of exhibits where you get to bleep bloop and press buttons, and then you get to, I don't know, pick up a phone and talk to a computer, which then synthesizes your words and then turns it into a song. Like, who comes up with this stuff? It's so brilliant. Afterwards, we had to get a drink. Well, I had a non-alcoholic cider, which was delicious, by the way, at one of the many rock and metal bars in the city. And I say many because it is way more than we have in Canada. The Finns are just way more metal than we will ever be, and I'm happily at home in this environment. The next day, we went for a day trip to Suomenlinna. Don't come for me for the pronunciation, okay? On this lovely ferry. Again, we lucked out having a gorgeous yet cold and crisp day to the Fortress Island just off the coast. This place was teeming with tourists, but it was great exercise walking around the island, which has year-round residents, actually, which I thought was interesting. Suomenlinna was formerly a military fortress that volleyed between Swedish and Russian control over the years. And hopefully it stays in Finnish hands forever. Like Porvoo, it was delightfully peaceful and calm. A water that's rich and blue and probably cold as hell. But you look out and you can see no one for kilometers and kilometers, except maybe the lone cruise ship or two. I'm both inspired and terrified of the sea, but I still think it's absolutely gorgeous, sustaining so much life and inspiring us all with its majesty. Back in Helsinki, we, surprise, went to a bar again.
So we're at a bar called Bar Loose here in Helsinki, and I'm just I'm actually drinking water. And yeah, this is the last night. It's been really good. I'm tired, but it's been a really, really good trip. But it's been pretty exhausting. Okay, don't go. Bye. But yeah, my friend Marius was here, and he was with me for basically the entire time, and he just left to go home. So now I'm on my own for the first time in the city. So although with the exception of the first couple of hours that I was in the city, I was on my own. So I get to kind of blaze my own trail and do whatever I want in the city. But it was kind of nice to have somebody to share the experience with and share what the city's all about with somebody, which is not normal for me. Normally I don't have somebody to experiencing a city for the first time. I haven't had that in a long time, so that was kind of nice. Okay, so it's almost 9:30. 10:30, 11:30. So yeah, I kind of have 12, by the time I get into the city, it'll be 10, and then I could kick around until 11. And then I was thinking of maybe grabbing some cinnamon buns and taking it with me. I did have a cinnamon bun in Suomenlinna with Suomenlinna. I don't actually know how to say it. And it was very dry. It wasn't really that good. And I'm wondering if that's the exception. Maybe that was the way that the way that it is here, or I don't know. It wasn't really that good. And I've definitely had better. And I'm not talking the American style Cinnabon type where it's just drenched in icing, which I don't really like all that much, but I've definitely had better versions in Denmark, even their cinnamon bun. I'll go to the Cafe Phaser or something and sit and have a coffee with a cinnamon bun, and that's what I'll do. Okay, bye.
Okay, the cinnamon bun was good. And this is a Karelian pie, which, to be honest, should have been heated because eating it cold was strange to me, but it was also bomb. I had a decaf cappuccino with this and was quite content sitting and waiting to catch my train to the airport. I can't stress how much I just love watching a city bustle. I could just sit here and watch everyone go about their business in trams and cars driving by all day because it reminds me that life is happening. I often go through life at warp speed and need to remind myself to slow down and notice the little things like this. It's a tough habit to break, but this is why I force myself to film it. And then it's time to go to the airport. I almost missed this tram because I couldn't remember the Finnish word for the airport, and I took a guess and managed to get on the right one. I really enjoyed this short but sweet trip to this gorgeous city. The food was a sleeper hit for me, in that pretty much every meal I had was of exceptional quality and taste, like better than any I've ever eaten anywhere. If you love food, I highly recommend going to some of the restaurants there. In particular, we ate at a restaurant called Yes, 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 and it is some of the best vegetarian food I've ever eaten. So definitely put it on your list the next time you travel to this part of the world. I would definitely come back to Finland and go up north to see the reindeer. That's for a future trip when I add the Baltics. And maybe I'll go to Diggersby. When I arrived at the airport, I got that dread that came over me of having to return to work, and I actually quite like my job. So the dread didn't really last long, but it's just the feeling that you get when you see people taking off to go somewhere else that you can't go. Why do trips have to end? And now we're back in the void. I hope you enjoyed my little video of my sojourn to one of my favorite places, plus traipsing around a new one. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you can. Click that notification bell so you know when I have a new video up. And I'll see you in the next one.